All right. Well, there was a lot of action there yesterday in the NFL, and I tell you what, I don't know where else to start other than the Commanders Bears game because holy crap. Some might have called this the Josh Bowl, just in terms of, a big Caleb guy. Washington's my team this year. This was a tough game for me to decide. I thought Chicago was the right side, and until about 20 seconds left there in the game, that was the case. But Jayden Daniels, gosh, can we talk about that scramble? Then the throw, Chicago, there's a lot of questions there on a lot of their late game stuff. What was your guys' overall reaction to that game, and where do you think that this does anything to the Rookie of the Year odds?
Incredible luck to Washington and Jayden to get out of that game, and incredible luck to the Bears for being a 4-win plus win football team right now. I don't know how they managed to do it because both teams did not look like the winning team yesterday. That was a very ugly win by the Commanders. I actually saw that the Bears have sent in film review to the NFL asking for them to replay the last down because of the obvious holding calls that weren't there, the three massive ones. And then the NFL is actually reviewing it. Probably nothing going to come of it, but they have to review it. It's simple procedure. I just think there's a lot of controversy around this game and the refs, and for that reason alone, it kind of taints the win for the Commanders. Nonetheless, you were right about them, Josh. They're 6 wins. They're leading the East right now in the NFC, and they're only looking to get better. And I think this showed right here that Jayden Daniels is the best rookie quarterback in this class. I think that was undisputed going into the game, and he just proved why. I mean, Caleb, once again, you had less than 200 passing yards, buddy. Where you been? Where you been, Mr. Number One? Maybe we should paint the number 200 on your nails. Maybe that'll help remind you how many passing yards you got to hit a minimum threshold to be considered.
Blander. It's got to mean something, I guess. Tyler, do you think that Caleb still has a chance here catching up to Jayden for Rookie of the Year? Or do you think that kind of because Jayden was hurt too? People forget that he was hurt going into the game. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is I think that Caleb's Rookie of the Year chances we're really hoping that Jayden Daniels missed about 2 or 3 games. Because now, if he does play all the rest of the season, I think that he's generally going to put up better numbers than Caleb, just based on what we've seen so far. But it's not out of the question.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's out of the question. Caleb Williams is not winning Rookie of the Year.
So the thing that worries me, and we talked about this going into the draft with Jayden, the injuries are kind of a concern because of his build. So I kind of thought he was going to miss a couple of games with this rib injury, at least one. That's why I started Sam Darnold. I mean, he still got me 18, but I mean, Jayden got 22, and it's a close game. I guess no, in that league, I'm mollywopping that person now, but. It is what it is. I'll give you guys some fantasy tips at a later date. The Jayden Daniels injury concern is the reason why I feel like Caleb still has a shot at winning Rookie of the Year. But, I mean, at this point in the season, I don't see why the Commanders wouldn't be considered to be a Super Bowl contender. I mean, if you look at, like, the teams there in the NFC, I know it sounds wild. The Niners, yeah, they're getting McCaffrey back, and so that should end up helping them out a little bit, but they're kind of banged up on both sides of the ball. The Cowboys who have won, huh?
When is CMC supposed to come back?
I think 2 weeks from now.
He's starting some individual practice today.
Yeah. But the Cowboys have won 12 games in a row the past 3 seasons. It doesn't even look like they're going to get to 7 or 8. The Lions are your real team. I think the Packers are a real team.
Hold on.
Outside of that, I mean,
time out. The Packers, they can find a way to win games, but they're ugly wins. They went toe to toe with a banged up, injured Jacksonville and almost lost that game.
Just
are the Packers?
Jordan Love wasn't playing in the game in the third quarter.
are they really a threat yet? I mean, we talk about the Lions. We know how legit the Lions are. We've seen how good Minnesota can be. They've kind of been a slick, but we've seen how good they can be. The Packers and the Bears have both been beating up on bad teams, and it's showing. I think those are going to be downfalls. I think they're wildcard teams. I really think nobody's catching Detroit there. Detroit is your big juggernaut coming out of the NFC. The next closest team is probably Washington. I think there's a real conversation now. We're going to have a Washington-Detroit NFC Championship game. Those cards are on the table.
That's just something I never really thought we'd end up saying. Washington and Detroit in the NFC Championship game. And that would be a really good game, by the way. Like, I think that would have the possibility of being a shootout. But, dude, Detroit is definitely on another level right now.
Freddie Freeman just hit one second deck into the right field porch.
I get to watch it because I think you're like 10 seconds ahead here.
Absolutely just obliterates.
Dude,
looks like he only swings at like 3/4 strength.
Steelers drove down the field and scored with George Pickens, only to be called back by a face mask penalty, and they ended up having to settle for the field goal.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm playing Pickens. Don't need that. Man, I tell you what, that World Series game 1 was epic. I mean, first ever World Series walk-off grand slam, and I tell you what, the Dodgers kind of squeaked out of that one. They were down going into the bottom of the 8th, and I mean, just a sac fly there from Mookie tied it up. A really bad play there at second base when they were getting the throw in that moved Shohei over to third. I really thought that this was going to be a pretty competitive series, and it kind of has, but game 2 really did not feel like it was going to go New York's way. Pretty early on, Yamamoto ended up pitching a really good game. We'll see if Buehler ends up pitching a good game 3 or not, but it looks like Los Angeles might be taking this.
They might be for a clean sweep. That'd be incredible. I mean, the Yankees were this really good team. We know they had a slump in season, but they recovered in the end there. But what does it tell us about Aaron Judge? Have we overrated Aaron Judge and compared him to some of the other superstars too early? Because he's been absent this entire World Series so far. Isn't he 0 for 8?
Well, I think that we overvalued Judge's performance in the regular season, but I think that we also overvalued the Yankees' path to the World Series. They played a Royals team that's a year ahead of schedule that had 106 losses last year, and then they played a Guardians team that you were just waiting for the clock to strike midnight all year long on that team. Anyone who knows baseball knows that the Guardians are not winning that series. They can't hit for power. They have,
the Yankees had a big pitching advantage in that series as well, because there's a lot of young guys there for Cleveland, whereas the Yankees are kind of built there in their starting rotation.
The Yankees have much more experience compared to the Guardians. I mean, Jose Ramirez didn't have a good ALCS. I mean, the Yankees, they didn't have to stress much and sweat their way to the World Series. The Dodgers, they had to play the Padres, who the Padres came out swinging. And then the Dodgers had to play the team of destiny, one of the, best postseason runs in 10, 15 years in the Mets. I mean, Dodgers had to fight a lot harder to get here. And I think it's showing in the preparation right now and how both teams are performing. Yankees, this is a must-win, obviously, Game 3, because the Dodgers are going bullpen game tomorrow. So the Yankees had any shot of getting this World Series even back up, it was going to be getting to a lead tonight and making the Dodgers use their good bullpen arms and, having the Dodgers go with their long relief guys tomorrow and not Michael Kopech and Blake Trinan. So Yankees might be toast with that 2-run bomb.
Bueller's at least gettable. Like, he can definitely get got. So, I mean, I was pulling for the Dodgers heavy, just mostly for Shohei reasons. But I mean, I love Mookie Betts too. Freddie Freeman's a really easy guy to root for. They're a likable big market team.
Yeah. Don't get many of them.
So I really don't get upset that people talk about them as all the time, because I think it's good for the sport. And I mean, it's kind of that same thing with the Chiefs. I think the Patriots were kind of easy to kind of get tired of because they weren't really that interesting. It's not that they didn't have like a whole lot of dislikable guys, but like Bill Belichick really wasn't. He's not Andy Reid. He's not jovial there in the media. And Brady was a little stoic there with New England. Mahomes is talking. He's doing commercials. Dude, Chiefs are winning it again this year, and kind of okay with it.
I don't want to talk about the Chiefs winning again this year. Makes me sick to my stomach.
Josh, I know I was talking to you a little bit Friday. So yeah, the concert that I went to is for Ernest. He's a country artist, and like 15 minutes after he got on stage, he was like, "Let's score the Dodgers game." And he had a Dodgers hat on that he eventually ended up throwing into the crowd. But I'd heard this before, but I was reminded of it Friday. He said that he's known Mookie Betts since he was 8, and they grew up together in Nashville.
That's crazy.
And so he said, I don't really root for one baseball team or another. He's like, but I do root for the team, that Mookie's on, especially now that they're in the World Series. So that was pretty cool. Excuse me. I was at the concert with my roommate. He's a Yankees fan. So we were in between songs and stuff. We were watching bits of the game. And, once the opener was on, we were watching a little bit of the game before the guy that we paid for came. So yeah, it's fun. Wish I could have seen the whole entire last few innings, but I was driving home and my friend had it playing, so got to see everything the last couple at bats. That was pretty sweet.
See, that's at least nice. That's that was really the most important thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, home runs in the postseason they hit different. Home runs that are just in a really big spot, lights are on. It gives you chills. Now, Josiah, we talked last week about how Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are talking about two MVPs. And prior to last week, we talked about how Joe Burrow couldn't win there in Cleveland. I mean, they own Joe Burrow over there in Cleveland. Man, what the fuck was that?
I woke up that morning and I felt a trap game coming. When you're missing your 2 starting corners, a new quarterback, a new play caller, Cleveland always plays a tough, and I hate to admit it, but in the last 8 games between the Ravens and the Browns have won 6 of them. The Steelers have also gotten the better of the Ravens. I mean, you look at the last 5 quarterbacks this team has lost to. It's been Gardner Minshew twice, Patrick Mahomes, Winston, Mason Rudolph, and Kenny Pickett. I mean, there's just something about these AFC North teams that the Ravens can't get. You and I both know how they always play each other tough. Ravens, though, coming off a 5-game win streak with another loss, you knew they were due. I mean, this is a 12-win football team. We're not expecting a 16-0, and there's still definitely some holes that need to be addressed quickly, or this team might slowly slip out of Super Bowl contention. Still better than the Bengals. The Bengals are in the playoffs. It'll be 700 days since Joe Burrow has gotten to a playoff game, yet we still consider him this top quarterback in the league. As far as I'm concerned, he's probably number 5 on my list now.
Yeah, and I mean we're gonna end up getting to the Bengals here in a second, but let's stick on the MVP, Josiah. I mean, let's be realistic. This guy should win MVP over Jayden Daniels and over Josh Allen. I said it last year. If you weren't going to win last year, when the Chiefs were down, the Bills were down, the Bengals were down, you got an MVP there at quarterback. You had a top defense. If you weren't going to win it last year, you come back this year. The problem really isn't Lamar. And the problem is, on any given Sunday, you guys are most susceptible to getting got. Of any team that we think that we put up this year as a top team, you're almost like the Dallas Cowboys here. You're almost like the Cowboys, where
This team
you should have beat the living daylights out of Cleveland yesterday. That game shouldn't have even been close, and you guys lost.
Any given Sunday, man. The Bengals have beaten the Giants, the Browns, and the Panthers. So let's talk about any given Sunday if we want to. You and I both know how football goes. You and I both know how AFC North football goes. And that's how it goes. It's definitely not on Lamar. It's on the defense. You're missing 2 starting corners. You had 5 dropped interceptions. The offense didn't do him any favors. Lamar still almost put up 300 yards, 2 more touchdowns, no interceptions. Oh, and let's not forget he's still first in a lot of quarterback stats and categories. But a few weeks ago, when the Bengals lost to the Ravens, it was because of the defense. Oh, Burrow played out of his mind. Never mind the pick. And now we're going back and saying Lamar should have beat the Browns. Big deal right there. Say that the Browns have always had a good defense. This entire season, the one consistent the Browns have had is a good defense. You knew it was going to be tough playing them. The Bengals only got by them by a touchdown. We lost, I believe, by 5 points. Another famous John Harbaugh choke job with a fourth quarter lead blown. So it's just that's Ravens football, man. Pack it up, move on. Doesn't affect us, our season. We're still going to make the playoffs. We're still going to make are still the MVP, and he's still the father of Joe Burrow.
So can you be the MVP if you lose to the Raiders and the Browns in the same season? We're only 8 games in.
I mean, look at the other stats between the quarterbacks. Who's getting close to touching him?
Okay, I want to make sure because Jayden Daniels and Josh Allen are 2 answers that you can end up giving there. But
so who has Washington lost to? They've got 2 losses. Who have they lost to?
They lost to
The Ravens.
Yep.
And who did they lose to week 1?
That's who I'm trying to think of.
Aaron Judge swings and misses. Bueller with a cutter to strike him out.
That's up.
Aaron Judge, another strikeout, in case you were wondering.
The fear factor in the
Who'd they lose to, other than the Ravens?
Is a carryover effect over
I looked this up.
I would look it up, but I'm watching the baseball
numbers
game.
speak for themselves.
It's okay, Tyler. You can answer me this. Who have the Bills lost to this season?
It opens up the
Ravens
arsenal.
and the Texans.
I mean, just if we were to play this game, then Mahomes is the MVP.
Hold on. You'll see where I'm getting at. Lamar's lost to a few poor teams, yet he's beaten these other good teams. Every other guy in contention right now for MVP has a game or 2 we can throw in there and say they should have won this game. I mean, Josh Allen still being in MVP contention after shitting the bed against this Ravens defense that you just saw Winston and Minshew tear apart. That's got to be considered too. It's any given Sunday in this league. And just because you have a bad team game doesn't mean it's going to affect Lamar the MVP status. He's still the front runner, and he's still going to show why next week in Denver.
Thank you.
I know
But the Bucks are a great team. They fought to the end there in Atlanta. It was much closer than you thought it was going to be, wasn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it was, but they kind of threw everything they had there in that game. Like, if you weren't going to win that one, I don't know, man. It kind of feels like the season's lost, and that's really unfortunate because Baker was playing really well this year to start. But
hey, Kyle Pitts' breakout game, 2 big fantasy touchdowns. Is Kyle Pitts' season back on?
Have you always had trouble losing weight and keeping it?
yeah, he hits every once in a while, man. He does. I think that this Atlanta team, I don't expect them to make it very far there in the playoffs, but during this regular season, dude, they're very much alive in every single game. Kirk Cousins, I mean, Is he getting enough credit? Like, to come off the injury like he has. He had that bad game 1 there against Schittsburg because he's recovering. Like, it's his first game back. It's not comfortable yet. He comes back out week 2, gets a little bit better. And now he's, slinging fucking 500 passing yards there against the Bucs a few weeks ago. Threw up another 3 tutties yesterday. I don't know, man. I hate to remind you of your bad take there with Kirk Cousins, but even just looking at the team around him, all of a sudden Drake London's starting to hit. He's starting to look like the pick that they thought warranted a number 8 overall. Bijan's having a really good season. Kyle Pitts, it wasn't even just yesterday. He's had a few good games this season. The guys that we expected to, finally end up hitting. Oh, yeah, and by the way, Jesse Bates is leading a, middle of the pack, at least defense. They're not world beaters by any stretch, but they're top half of the league.
Don't forget Matthew Judon on the edge.
Yeah. Oh, who's that corner they got over there? Damn, that's gonna irritate me. They comment down below, Falcon fans. I know that we kind of had our bad times there with Falcon fans, but I think we're back in the good graces.
I'm ready to apologize for Kirk Cousins and my statements. I was wrong. It happens.
Hey, Desmond Ritter just got signed off the practice squad by somebody. I think Tennessee, Arizona. And he's still out there.
I remember seeing him talking about it, how blessed he is for another opportunity. And that's, good for him, but we all know how that's going to end.
Hey, speaking of opportunity, man, did you see Bryce Young?
No, did he look good?
Yeah, he sucked again. It was crazy because it was like, I think he threw like 38 times. With Bryce Young, that's an awful amount of times. That is a terrible amount. But he's not startable. He's a bad quarterback. Now, bad quarterbacks? Let me think. First thing that comes to mind, Anthony Richardson. Bad quarterback. This guy, I mean, have you seen the stats on this guy? He ranks 222nd out of 225 quarterbacks. Hold up. I've got this stat here. Oh shit, hold up. Clicked on the wrong thing. This is a guy that apparently needs to be tapping out, during games and having a break. Lowest completion percentage in a season among qualified quarterbacks over the last 20 years. Last 20 years. You have J.P. Lossman at 49.6%. By the way, this goes down. Jamarcus Russell, 48.8%. Tim Tebow, 46.5%. Anthony motherfucking Richardson at 44.4%. This guy is sitting here running around. And I tell you what, he's incredibly elusive. I know that I did Lamar wrong here. Calling Anthony Richardson a Walmart Lamar. Insulting. That Josiah, they have to start Joe Flacco. They have to bench Anthony Richardson. I'm almost on board with cutting him at this point. His press conference afterwards, joking around like, not gonna lie, I was tired. Dude, you say that to your buddies. Okay? You're in front of a microphone. Face the franchise. No, you can't. I don't know. Would you cut Anthony Richardson at this point?
I wouldn't cut him yet. You got to treat it like Bryce Young and Trey Lance. You got to hold him and see what kind of value you can get down the road for him because there are still they could develop him. I know he'd be a great backup in a Ravens uniform, fit right into that offense and plug him. But yeah, the Colts got to start Flacco. I look at the interview Flacco's been doing, what we've been seeing. He was on Pat McAfee's show. He was on the Manning broadcast the other night. He was hurt when he lost the Ravens to Lamar. That is scarring to a quarterback to lose your franchise team, the one you took to a Super Bowl. Ever since then, he's been fighting to get back to that. I mean, he struggled in Denver, struggled with the Eagles. He showed some flashes with the Jets. Next thing you know, he comes off the couch to Cleveland, helps lead them to the playoffs. And now you've seen what he's done this year with the Colts. I mean, the Colts are not a superpower team by any means, but they're definitely better than the Titans. They're definitely better than the Jaguars. The Colts can still be a wild card team, and Richardson is holding them back right now. Maybe he didn't play enough in college. Maybe he needs more development, better coaches. But when you're an NFL team, you got to ride with the hot hand. You got to ride with Joe Flacco.
Josiah, do you think that Anthony Richardson would be a good backup because he too, like Lamar, gets hurt a lot and can't finish games?
What's this Lamar gets hurt a lot agenda? Last I heard, Burrow's missed more time than Lamar.
Listen, dude, I didn't say anything. And I mean, my quarterback at least ends up having his leg chopped there in half, or a dirty hit there by Baltimore. Kind of reminiscent there of the Pittsburgh hit there on Palmer.
Do you remember 2022 when Lamar just didn't want to come back and play for his team, even in the playoffs? And, I mean, I know you guys had a Pro Bowl, backup, Snoop Huntley, I mean, going from an MVP to a Pro Bowler, I mean, that's not a very big drop off, but.
Well, Baltimore's defensive end, Sam Hubbard, had an unbelievable play there in that game too.
Even Tua wanted to come back.
That was a block. Yeah. That was a block in the back on Mark Andrews, and you know it. They shouldn't have scored that.
Oh God!
As for Lamar,
that guy's all the way down the field.
The 70-yard return shouldn't have been 100 yards because of a block in the back.
I don't blame Lamar for wanting to miss that game. He was healing from an injury. Why rush it back when you do a contract? You want to get paid. You got to do what you got to do. Business.
Okay.
Jamar Chase missed the season because he wants to get paid. He took out a $50 million insurance policy. That's business.
Hey, if you really want to get there, give me one more second here. Anthony Richardson completely just the fact that you're sitting here saying that Shane Steichen isn't a good head coach. Anthony Richardson is sitting here polluting people like you. You don't watch Anthony Richardson. You're sitting here like a Justin Fields supporter. Well, you see his highlights on Twitter. He makes a lot of cool plays on there. He's not an NFL quarterback, and calling him a backup quarterback is like calling Justin Fields a backup quarterback. He's an emergency one.
First off, I never called Shane Steichen a bad head coach.
Just did.
I said Anthony Richardson might need better coaching, and that's not a wrong thing to say. Let me tell you something about Lamar. The reason Lamar has as much success as he does now in the NFL and with Baltimore is because when they drafted him, that team that drafted him was a Joe Flacco team. They tore the entire team down to its core, rebuilt it with one of the youngest rosters to build that offense for Lamar and help him elevate his game. If Lamar gets drafted anywhere else, they don't do that. When the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson, you're drafting a specific play style quarterback. You've been playing traditional football for a while since Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, all the way down to Phillip Rivers and so on. So you're switching it up to a more futuristic style of West Coast offense football. You need to have that system there too, and that you need to make those players. And the Colts offense right now doesn't have that. You got Jonathan Taylor, who's a great running back, but other than that, who's the tight end? Who do you got besides Pitt and Reynolds and all these other guys who can't stay healthy? I mean, I was excited for Adonai Mitchell this year. He had a special spot on my fantasy bench, and he's been completely quiet. Why are they not playing him more? There's a lot of question marks there in Indianapolis. I think Richardson's holding the Colts back, and I think the Colts are holding Richardson back. It's just not a good relationship.
I mean, Daniel Jones at least completing more than 44% of his passes.
Daniel Jones first game, but every time he throws the ball, there's a flag.
If you're completing, the rule is if you're completing less than 60% of your passes in the NFL, you're a below average quarterback. I don't know what the rule is if you're completing less than 45% of your passes. Like that's not supposed to work. Now I remember people saying that Tim Tebow wasn't a good quarterback. I remember people saying that Jamarcus Russell, that was the biggest bust in NFL history. And Richardson is not only outpacing him, he's taking a break halfway through before finishing out his lap. Now, because you want to get there so bad, let's talk about the Bengals here for a second, all right? Bengals go into a game.
I don't think T. Higgins hurt his quad. I think he's holding out on purpose because he wants to train. He doesn't want to risk injury. He was healthy all week for practice, then suddenly on Friday he appears on the injury report. Oh, no. Quad injury. Maybe not playing. Oh, he's a last-minute game-time decision. Yeah, he's not going to play. No, he's holding out. He wants out of Cincinnati. You guys aren't going to pay Chase. Joe Burrow sucks and hasn't seen the playoffs in 720 days coming up. I mean, that's just facts, Josh.
I mean, so let's rewind here. Okay. So T. Higgins, people had said the exact same thing there about his hamstring injury. People had said that was a whole fake thing. But, he only came back and then, unlocked Jamar Chase. There's a lot of problems right now with Cincinnati. There's the wide receiver issue that is impending, and you're seeing what's going to end up happening once T ends up leaving. Jamar Chase wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league because he believes that he's the best wide receiver. I think he's 2, but he thinks he's 1. Because of how poorly we paid attention to the wide receiver position, obviously because we have the best duo in the league, we haven't really paid that much attention recently in drafts to address that need. The running back position, non-existent. It's just like it's bad. It's people are talking about Dallas and how they're trying to get everything there out of Zeke, and it's a bad run offense. This is a really historically bad running team, and look, every good quarterback looks a lot better there with a run game. When the defense knows that you have to end up passing it there every time, he's not taking as many sacks this year if you look at it. He's having to scramble out of the pocket, for sure. But there's not as many sacks going down this year. It's just because they're dropping guys there into coverage. You double Jamar Chase, he looks like the 25th to 30th best receiver there in the league when he's getting double covered. But he's still going to command $35 million in the offseason, probably 38 to 39 by the time we actually end up paying him. And now you've locked down 2 guys at basically $90 million. You moved off of Jesse Bates, Joe Mixon, DJ Reader, Awuzie. You've moved off of Tyler Boyd. There's a lot of guys here that you've moved off of and haven't really seen a lot of cash going back into the team. And I got nervous there in the offseason. I believe we talked about it. The second that Mike Brown started talking in the offseason, that's when I got worried because he had kind of disappeared for a few years. And apparently there was some sort of health-related thing there. Not trying to speculate too much, but that was at least the rumor going around. He comes back in the picture. He's not wanting to pay anybody now. Nobody at all. Zach Taylor, I was on his side there before. It clicked for me last night. I was listening to a podcast and they had said, if Zach Taylor was on the open market, would anybody take him? And I sat there and I was like, well, obviously, Carolina might, Tennessee, go from the offensive coordinator there to the head coach. You can see some of these bad teams taking a flyer on them, but no team that would be like, oh, you know what? This is a ready-made build roster. You want to talk about firing John Harbaugh all the time, Josiah. I would take him in a heartbeat. Like, at least the team, yeah, they may have more penalties than Cincinnati. But they're consistently great. They're consistently towards the top of the league. And this is an 18-year thing now. We got a 4-year run with a quarter. By the way, Zach Taylor's still 6 games under 500 as a head coach. He's had a Super Bowl appearance, 2 AFC title appearances. He is still 6 games under 500. If they don't make the playoffs this year, you got to look at firing him.
You originally weren't on the Zach Taylor train. When he came over, you weren't too excited for it. Then you saw what he was able to do his first year. You got that euphoria high from the Super Bowl appearance. And you said, well, he came from Sean McVay. Maybe he's really good. And now you're seeing the cost of that down the road. I mean, the Bengals didn't have it with Marvin Lewis either. Maybe it's just a Mike Brown thing, not being able to find the right head coach to run this team.
So the Jake Browning stuff last year, too. Jake Browning ends up, damn near getting us into the playoffs last year because Burrow had left the season so early. So Taylor had bought a lot of stock with me. That was a desperate move, what they did there. 5 minutes left in the third quarter, going for it 4th and 1, and calling a play design that it was never going to work. You didn't even have the proper amount of guys on that side of the damn field to get that a first down. They had 3 guys over there. We had 2. Jamar was the 3. That made no sense at all. You could have punted it, made it pretty deep. The defense had kind of held on at that point. I can't necessarily put all of that on the defense there yesterday. They've been piss poor all year. I thought they kind of held their own yesterday, but 0-4 there at home. Just I'm not going to a Bengals game this year. I'm not. I'm going to pay $200 and go to the Royal Rumble. I'm not paying $200 and going to in Indianapolis. By the way, I'm driving further. I'm not paying $200 to go to a Bengals game.
I understand completely. It's outrageous the prices are for the team's performance.
They're not making the playoffs. And honestly, this is going to be worse than the Palmer years. Because at least with Palmer, it was like, well, yeah, he was really good. Then he got hurt. And then we just couldn't protect him afterwards. He didn't recover like Burrow did from the injury. Burrow was also a little bit younger in his career. This now is like, no, well, Burrow's capable of taking traffic cones and a below-average head coach to a Super Bowl and being one play away from winning it. You can't ask him to do all of that, and even though I think the offensive line is better now, you can't ask him to do that and carry a defense that, well, unless you're scoring 35 points, again, you gave up 37. You're giving up over 30 points a game. This is not a good defense. And I don't even blame Lou. Lou Anarumo has been a terrific head coach or a terrific defensive coordinator for a few years now. He's one of the few DCs that makes Mahomes look average. But they got rid of everybody, and they paid fucking Sam Hubbard instead. He only comes out 2 games a year against Baltimore. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fun. I'd rather have Bates. I didn't think we were going to pay Hubbard, but we're not going to pay Hendrickson? Are you kidding me?
That's another thing, too. So you were so okay moving on from Bates because you said having a good safety doesn't matter for a Super Bowl winning team when you have this type of offense. You don't need that good of a safety. Now you're regretting it.
Well, because I thought we were going to keep Hendrickson and Hubbard long term. You're talking about losing Hendrickson and you paid Hubbard instead. That's ass backwards. One guy's getting a whole bunch of sacks. The other guy only gets pressures that the other guy's on the other side of the line. They prioritize the wrong guys.
The guy getting all the sacks is getting paid $1 million under market value right now. Cough over the money.
We can't. If Mike Brown is back in the situation, we can't. This is a problem with Cincinnati sports in general. Ownership dictates everything. And we have middling owners in both professional teams here. It's aggravating because you see it on paper. You see it working. And then they come in and they just destroy every bit of it. Gosh, I cannot stand. Can't stand Cincinnati sports, dude. Hate it. And of course, they have to suck as soon as I get back.
It's a curse.
It is a curse. Curse of the. Hey, before we end up getting out of here, Tyler, did you have anything to say here about your Bills? Beating the piss out of the Seahawks and Josh Allen not even having to play the full game. The guy that's not the MVP quarterback, not the MVP, guys.
I just want to say that Seattle is definitely a top 5 hardest place to play as an opponent. I mean, they're not called the 12s for nothing. And it's always loud, rowdy, weather's not great out there. And I want to read off some quotes for you guys about Bills Mafia and how well they traveled yesterday. Pat McAfee, Bills Mafia took over Seattle. Josh Allen, shout out to Bills Mafia. It was a crazy scene to see walking off the field after the win. Tom Brady, the announcer yesterday, gotta love Bills Mafia. And lastly, Geno Smith, Bills fans made it feel like we were on the road at times. How loud it was.
That's tough.
So I don't know if, obviously with Buffalo's proximity to Canada, I mean, they're 30 minutes from Niagara Falls and from Canada. I don't know if there was a large contingency of fans from Canada who were Bills fans that ended up making a trip to Seattle, that live closer to Seattle than to Buffalo. I'm not sure what it was, or because I don't know why, as a Bills fan, you would book a trip to Seattle when you know it's probably going to be crappy weather instead of going to like Miami or going to a stadium that's domed, such as our game in Indianapolis in 2 weeks or our game in Detroit. So I don't know the reasoning why there were so many Bills fans there.
I think it has to do with Josh Allen and his college, too. I mean, he did play at Wyoming. I know Wyoming's still a great distance away from Washington, but you've got a lot of those Western states out there that love Josh Allen's story. Like when Lamar was in his 2019 MVP season, he came to Cincinnati. It was almost like a Ravens home game. You had so many Louisville Cardinal jerseys there, and they were all chanting MVP. It made it really hard for the Bengals. I think you see a lot of that with Josh Allen, too, especially when you guys go out west.
I didn't think about that because he is from Northern California. So I mean,
and there ain't nothing out there, dude. There ain't no sports.
Yeah, we've only played, out west a handful of times. I mean, we've only made a couple trips to LA. If I remember, we played opening night a couple years ago against the Rams, and then we made a trip to LA for the Chargers last year on Christmas Eve. But yeah, the Bills, I will say, the game never felt close, but the Bills got lucky, and the Seahawks should have probably put up 3 touchdowns. Because there was, Josh fumbled it at one point because it was pouring from the second quarter on. It was raining. I mean, it was really hard for anyone to grip the ball. Josh fumbled and kicked the ball down the field like 8 yards for a first down to one of our running backs. And then the Seahawks, they had like a 3rd and goal or a 2nd and goal, and the center, because the ball was so wet, snapped it probably 4 yards over Geno's head. And Kenneth Walker picked the ball up at like the 25 or 30. So they had a 2nd or 3rd and goal from like the 25, 22. And then the next drive, I believe this is when Josh threw his first interception of the year. The Seahawks returned it, almost pick 6, but they had a 4th and goal from maybe the 2-yard line, and Geno got stepped on by one of his linemen, And so 2 straight drives, they had a goal to go and got only 3 points out of it. And our backup nose tackle had a tip pass that he intercepted. I mean, there was a lot of things that went the Bills' way, but the Bills did play a very complete game. I mean, Josh had the 1 interception, but Amari Cooper slipped. Got his cleat stuck, and Josh, it is what it is. I mean, played a really good game. We beat an offense that was, I believe top in the league coming into yesterday in passing offense. DK Metcalf was out yesterday, but so was Terrell Bernard, our starting middle linebacker. So, it is what it is. I mean, every team deals with injuries. It's the NFL. It's not, the World Series of Poker.
A win any given Sunday when you win is a good Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it felt nice that I turned it off and I wanted to watch Red Zone. So I didn't watch probably any of the fourth quarter. I mean, I was bored.
Well, that's when James Cook thankfully ended up taking off. I mean, I needed every bit of his points yesterday. That was the one thing that was missing with Buffalo was for so long was just a really good run game. And now that they have that with Cook, if they can just get Cooper comfortable there in the offense, because I mean, I think he only had 2 targets, 1 catch there yesterday. So if they could just get him, now it was raining, so I think that maybe some of the conditions kind of played a factor in how much they used him. Because they had showed a few times there in the broadcast just how much water was there on the football. But this team, this offense, if they can get Amari Cooper going, Dalton Kincaid playing the way he is, James Cook playing the way he is, this offense could definitely end up taking off.
Overreaction Monday today, they said the proposition was we're going to have another Bills Chiefs AFC Championship game, and Rich Eisen said
you cut out there.
It was an overreaction.
You cut out there.
On Overreaction Monday today, Chris Brockman said the proposition was that we're going to have another Bills Chiefs AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I could see it.
I would be sick to my stomach if that happened before the game. I mean, win or lose, I'll be sick to my stomach because that means either we're going to a Super Bowl or we just got beat by Patrick Mahomes again. So
the NFL deserves better. It should be Ravens Bills in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, it'll probably be either Chiefs Bills or Chiefs Texans in the AFC title.
Stephon Diggs, do we have any update on his injury?
So it might be Bills Texans. Just kidding. It's definitely Chiefs Bills or Chiefs Texans.
Do we have any update on Stephon Diggs' injury though? It was a non-contact.
No,
It was a non-contact lower body injury. So,
dude, they need Nico Collins back. Nico's the real thing here in the offense because Joe Mixon adds a lot for sure. But I don't think that if they lost Stephon Diggs for a period of time, I really don't think that that's detrimental. They just did it last year. Pick up Dalton Schultz, though, in fantasy. Go ahead and do it. Pick up Cade Otton if he's somehow available in your league, too.
One more thing, Josh. Did you see Keon Coleman? And did you see the first ball that Josh tried to throw to him? That was in the left corner of the end zone. It was pretty early on yesterday. It was contested by Witherspoon.
Yeah, he got 1 foot in, right?
27. He didn't complete the catch. But then Witherspoon was talking trash. And then I think the next drive, or maybe 2 drives later, Josh went to Coleman on the other side of the end zone to Witherspoon, and Coleman went up contested, caught it with Witherspoon's arm right in the middle of his arms.
Yeah.
And Coleman went up to him afterwards and patted him on the helmet like, "Lil bro."
Well, because he almost ended up getting it there on the second effort. But I mean, the Seattle players sitting there getting into a little bit of a fist fight.
The Bills players had to break it up.
on the field.
Yeah. Bills, Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, offensive linemen, had to break it up.
Bro,
I-
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was just a good, relaxing game to watch yesterday. And, I'm really pissed that I was watching the Commanders Bears. And then uh, my girl that I had over, Violet, she'd stayed a lot longer than I thought. So I got a later start on my day than I wanted to. And, so it's in the Commanders Bears. It's like third quarter, early fourth. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get in the shower. Like, this game is boring. And it wasn't until after I got out of the shower and looked at my phone that I saw you said what an ending. And I was like, really? If I would have just waited 15 more minutes, 10 more minutes, I would have saw it.
Dude, that Hail Mary was crazy.
I want you to know, dude, I missed the Minneapolis Miracle. I was a freshman in college. We had watched the entire game, my roommate and I, and we left with like 2 minutes left in the game because we were like, okay, like nothing's gonna happen. We went down and we were eating lunch. I left my phone in the room and everything, and I come back up and my phone had blown up. Did you just see that?
That was like one of the few times that we got a reaction out of Joe Buck too. But
Are you watching the World Series game right now?
yeah. Yeah, dude, Dodgers are starting to run away with this one already.
No.
I'm switching between.
What are the Steelers Giants doing, JoJo?
It is 6-6. Pittsburgh is 3rd and 8.
I need the Steelers to win this one.
I'm watching that game, and Boston is losing to Milwaukee.
It's too early to worry about basketball. None of these games matter right now.
It's still in the 70-degree range, so it's too early. All right, we good for the app?
Hey, let's do it, man. Hey, if you haven't already, don't forget, subscribe down below, ring the bell so you don't miss any sort of content. Head over to X, follow us at JJ in the evening. Join the conversation over there. Who Dey? And let's trade Jamar.
George Pickens just had touchdown catch of the year contention.